Okay, so within this video, we're going to look at a revision of second year work and also an extension of second year's work. This first question here says, solve 5x plus 1 equals 2 bracket x minus 4. And the question also asks, once we've done that, to verify your answer. So I'm going to first of all start off to solve the 5x plus 1. Whenever you see the question solve, it actually means you need to find an answer for your unknown. In this case, we only have one unknown and it's x. But before I do anything, I need to get everything out on the table. I need to get rid of my brackets, get my x's to one side and solve. So my next line will be 5x plus 1 equals 2 multiplied by x will give me 2x, and 2 multiplied by minus 4 will give me minus 8. I'm then going to try and focus on getting my x's on one side, numbers on the other. So on this side I'm going to do a minus 2x and a minus 2x. And I'm also going to do a minus 1 on this side and a minus 1 on that side. So what you'll see is your minus 1 and your plus 1 cancel, and on this side here we'll now have 5x minus 2x, which is 3x, equals, and on this side we'll see that the 2x and the minus 2x cancel, and I have a minus 8 and a minus 1, and that will give me minus 9. And then I'm going to say to myself, okay, 3x is equal to minus 9. I'm asked to find x, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to divide by 3 to both sides. They will cancel, and I will be left with x equals minus 3. So, as I said, very similar to work that you would have done in first year, solving that out. And the next part of the question just asks me to verify my answer, so to make sure that my answer is correct. So I am saying that x is equal to minus 3. But what I'm also saying is if I fill in this part, it will equal this part here. So that's what I'm going to do in this next part. So the sum originally was 5x plus 1. We now know that x is minus 3, or we have solved it. So it's going to be 5 times minus 3 plus 1 equals 2 times, instead of writing x, I'm now going to write minus 3 minus 4. So we're going to work out this side, we're going to work out this side, and hopefully our two answers will equal each other. So to continue on, 5 times minus 3 is going to give me minus 15 plus 1 equals 2 times minus 3. Well, before we do that, we have to, of course, do what's inside the bracket. So minus 3 minus 4 is going to give me minus 7, and that's really 2 times minus 7. So, and 2 times minus 7 is going to be minus 14. And does minus 15 plus 1 give me minus 14? It does. So we can say there that that is verified or true. So if you're asked to solve something, you're just going to first of all do any workings out that you need to. Then you're going to try and get what you need on one side, everything else on the other. You do that by a process of balancing. Once you've got your answer and you're happy with it, you then go back and substitute it in and see if this side equals this side, and if that's the case, then it's true. If the question says verify your answer, that would mean that it has to be true. And so if you aren't getting it to work out here, go back and maybe work on this part here again. Maybe there's a slight mistake. Okay, so you're now able to attempt activity 1. Okay, we're going to move on to a little bit harder ones here, but the same precedent. You can see here I have 1/3 bracket 3x plus 2 minus 4x minus 2 over 5 equals 3 over 2. And I'm asked to solve. And I'm asked to solve, which means get an answer for my unknown. And in this case, it's an x. So tell me what x is equal to by the end of all this. You can see here that we have a lot of work on this side. We have 1/3 multiplied by 3x plus 2 minus a fraction. So we're going to focus solely on this side here, and we'll come back to the right hand side in a second. So we're just going to focus on the left hand side. So you can see here I have 1/3 bracket 3x plus 2, and I really need to understand at this point that another way of writing that is the same as writing 1 bracket 3x plus 2 all over 3. You have to start spotting that now because that will make things a lot easier. And then beside it we have minus 4x minus 2 all over 5. And I'm just going to focus on this bit here. Well, theoretically what I have here is if I have one fraction minus another fraction. And how do I minus two fractions? I find for myself a common denominator. And in this case, my common denominator is going to be 15. So then I say to myself, 3 goes into 15 5 times. So it's 5 times, and you know here that this one, we would have worked out this one, but 1 times 3x is only going to give me 3x, and 1 times 2 is going to give me 2. So that wasn't going to make a difference. So it's 5 times whatever's on top, which is 3x plus 2. Be careful with your sign. Minus 5 goes into 15 3 times, so it's going to be 3 times 4x minus 2. And we're going to focus on that now and working that out. So I'm going to work out my brackets. So 5 times, so again it's all over 15, and it is 5 times 3x is going to give me 15x plus 10 minus 3 times 4x is 12x, and a minus by a minus gives me plus 6. At this point then I'm going to just tidy it up a little bit. So 15x and minus 12x is going to give me 3x. And then plus 10 plus 6 plus 16 all over 15. And at this point now, guys, I can bring in my equals 3 over 2. Okay, so this is a little bit more, less confusing. And the reason for that is now I just have one thing equals another thing, or one fraction equals another fraction. We at this point should be able to spot that we could, yes, of course, we could multiply this by 15 and cross out and then multiply this by 15 and divide this by, there's a lot of work there though. If you just have one sole thing on one side and one sole thing on the other, you can cross multiply. So that's what I'm going to do now here. It doesn't matter which side we cross first. I'm going to decide to just cross this side first. So it's going to be 2 times 3x plus 16 equals 3 times 15. And so that just makes things a little bit easier. Now I'm going to work out the brackets. So it's going to give me 2 times 3x is going to give me 6x plus 32 equals 3 15s are 45. Again, we want to find x. So you're going to say to yourself, okay, let's get our numbers on one side and our letters on the other. And at this point then, we're going to get 6x equals 8 and 5, which is going to give me 13. And we're going to then obviously divide by 6. And there it is. X is equal to 13 over 6. You can now attempt activity 2. Okay, this should not be new to you either. In this question, we're asked to solve for x and y. So, you've seen these before. We have two unknowns. They're both equations, and how we do this is we do simultaneous equations. So again, I'll run through this quite quickly, but we have spent some time on it. And if you want a more detailed video, go back into your second year work into where I've gone through a few examples there. So we are trying to, first of all, cancel out my x's or cancel out my y's. And I can do that through multiplying both of my lines or one of my lines. I'm going to try and cancel out my y's because I already have a minus and a plus, and it just makes things a little bit easier. So in order for me to cancel this out, I have a plus 5y. I'd need a minus 5y here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply that whole top line by 5. And so I will have 10x minus 5y equals 5 times 0 is 0. My bottom line, I've done nothing to it, so it's 10x plus 5y equals 6. And then you'll spot that your plus 5y and your minus 5y cancel. And you're left with, you just make sure you go back and add these together. So you've got a 10x and a 10x, that's 20x equals 6. And then you're going to divide by 20 on both sides so that you can find out what x is. And in this case, x is equal to 6 over 20, which we can break down a little bit further, which is 3 over 10. So it's not a nice number in this case, but nevertheless, I haven't made a mistake, so we'll move on. We now have to find y, and how we find y, if you remember, sub your answer into either line. So I'm going to just take the top line. Generally, it's what I always do. So my top line is 2x minus y equals 0. Okay, so if that's the case now, I have x is equal to 3 over 10. So it's going to be 2 times 3 over 10 minus y equals 0. So that's going to give me 6 over 10 minus y equals 0. We'll get our numbers to one side, letters to the other. So I'm going to have a minus 6 over 10 and a minus 6 over 10. So we'll spot that they'll cancel out. We're now left with minus y equals minus 6 over 10. And we can cancel out our minuses on both sides. And so y is equal to 6 over 10. If you're not sure why we can cancel out our minuses on both sides, well, we could divide it by a minus 1 and then divide this by a minus 1. That would be why could happen. But hopefully you've been doing enough at this stage to spot that that's an easy way to figure out your signs. So that is a simultaneous equation. As I said, I've gone through quite quickly so that you're able to now move on to activity 3. If you're very confused, go back to the second year work and watch me go through a very decent example, but much slower.